afternoon. Welcome to another exciting edition and conversation on the Worthy for 30 podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tash. With me is a fellow Essex County Montclair resident, Tara Tersigni. Welcome to the show, Tara.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me. Love speaking to my Jersey people.
Yes, I love it. So the way that Tara and I were connected is I went to a Montclair startup event at Montclair State University, and Tara was one of the panelists alongside Dan Reich, who was a previous guest, and Craig Dubitsky, who was a previous guest. So again, got to get the whole panel on the show to talk about their journey and what they're experiencing and seeing firsthand in terms of doing good while doing well. Again, Tara, that's a premise of the Worthy for 30 podcast. So the way I usually like starting these conversations, Tara, is really getting an understanding of your career progression. You have a very interesting background from where you started to where you are now. So I'd love for you to dive in.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me.
Of course.
I have a bit of I don't know if it's non-traditional or actually really traditional background for an entrepreneur, which is that nothing was really planned and everything just kind of started happening. But I am originally from Massachusetts. I went to boarding school and then took like a total curve and went to college in Texas, which was different, and I loved it. And I always knew while I was there that I wanted to keep going and move to LA after school, after graduation. So literally, I think 1-2 days after I graduated, I loaded up my car and drove out there and had a job lined up that was working for free for a manager because I wanted to work in the entertainment industry. Ultimately, I wanted to work in film, and kind of, I think, very typical journey for people that move out to LA and want to get going in Hollywood. I just did whatever I could to make ends meet and survive, and then somehow through friends and networking landed this random job as a segment producer on Snoop Dogg's reality show. So this was pre-Kardashians. This was like one of the first reality shows, and it was Snoop and his family. And I was 21 or 22 years old, and it was wild. I can't even, the stories are not appropriate for this setting, sure. But if anyone wants to hear some, they can DM me or LinkedIn me. I'm happy to share. I met so many great friends, got so much great experience on the production side of television, and ended up producing a bunch more shows. Really got my feet wet out there. And then I was like, okay, this job to job freelance life isn't for me. I'm from the East Coaster. I'm firstborn. I need some consistency and health insurance. So
basic necessities, Tara.
It's just basic necessities. My parents are like, what the hell are you doing? So I got a job as an assistant to a president at CBS television. Okay. Her name was Terry Wood. We're still really close friends. And she was my first great mentor that I've had so far. She was just a baller. I mean, tough person in a hard industry that was male dominated. And she was doing it. And she had been doing it really well for many, many years. So I was her assistant and very quickly started to, rise up the ranks because that's not really the kind of work I wanted to do, but it is a common way to get started out there. So anyway, I worked at CBS. I kind of worked my way up to middle management and then in LA. And then my husband had the opportunity to move back to the East Coast. And we were like, great, let's get back there. So I wanted to stay in entertainment. And when we moved, I started looking for jobs. And within a week or two of being there, I was having lunch with a colleague of mine from CBS, who was head of the New York office. And she was like, oh, last night I was at Bobby Brown's book party. At first, my head was like, Bobby Brown, Whitney's Bobby, or the lip gloss, right. I was lost for a second.
Sure.
I had no idea that Bobby Brown Cosmetics was a real person. That was completely lost on me. So I said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I don't like makeup. I don't wear makeup. It's not my thing. Want to keep doing what I'm doing. She was like, no, you should really meet her. She's great. She's really cool. So I needed a gig and thought, okay, fine, no worries. And then I met her, and 3 days, we like kismet, weird, freak, soulmate action kind of happened at the bottom of Bloomy's 59th Street in between a personal appearance she was doing there for the brand she hired me 3 days later. And that kicked off 10 years of a really dynamic and different partnership that started with me being her chief of staff at Bobby Brown, which was owned by Estee Lauder. But, the Lauder world wasn't really for me, or kind of like the very heavy corporate world wasn't for me. So I only did that a year, got my baptism by fire in the beauty industry there, which was fantastic. And then we went on to do a whole bunch of other things. So, and through those 10 years, again, it was just kind of like interesting things kept turning up. And via her and we were like, cool, let's try it.
Cool. Let's try it. So it's interesting because, like you said, Terry was at CBS, the
Mm-hmm.
president of CBS on the
Yeah.
West Coast, and you had a great relationship. Your first mentor, and then through happenstance, you meet Bobby Brown, the cosmetics
Mm-hmm.
icon,
Mm-hmm.
who also and was she like, again, you have an enduring relationship, and again, I just want to connect the dots here between Terry and Bobby. Like, what is it, like, what are those sort of elements or attributes that you would attribute to, again, these enduring relationships that you built over time?
I think it's the trusting of the person in me. So both Terry and Bobby, and by the way, Terry, when I was thinking, when Bobby offered me the job, I wasn't going to take it because I had no interest in the beauty industry. And Terry happened to be on a trip in New York, and I was meeting with her and having dinner, and she said, "No, I really think you should do it. You should just take the leap, and why not? Worst case scenario, you had 6 months of something different." So thanks to her and this other woman, Alexandra Jewett, who's a Montclarian,
Okay, excellent.
I just kind of took that leap. And they're two wonderfully successful business women that didn't have a lot handed to them and had to work really hard for everything they have, while simultaneously they're both moms and have families. And while when we all first met, I didn't have a family, but that was what I wanted to, aspire to. So I think they were just kind of leading by example, both of them in different ways. And that's what really attracted me to them.
Excellent. And before we get into, working with Bobby Brown and Jones Road Beauty, and was it Evolution 18, would really love to understand, again, these two, again, individuals gave you their time, gave you their investment in you to build you to where you are today, Tara. And looking at your LinkedIn profile and doing some research, mentoring and giving back is near and dear to you. Can you point to some examples of some of the mentees that are in your orbit and what they're working on?
Definitely. And this is something else that I heavily attribute to Bobby and also her husband, Stephen, who's not typically mentioned, but is an integral part to this whole story as well. She gives back a lot in whatever she's doing. And my family and the way I grew up, we were always very active in giving back. Even no matter what someone had, there's always a way to give back, whether it's materially or through your time or your energy. And that's always been a part of what I've done with my career and personal life. So, right now I do it through mentoring other young entrepreneurs. I do some angel investing. And with that angel investing, I love advising, whether they're a singular person or, let's say, two co-founders. I have one young, she's not a girl, she's a woman, but I always say girl. Her name's Noelle, and she was Bobby and I's intern at a digital beauty magazine we ran at Yahoo. Another one of these, like, oh, let's give it a try. And it was a really, really fun experience. So she was our intern, and we've stayed in touch over the years. And she had this wonderful idea and created an innovative formula in the pet care space, which is launching right now, actually. And so she came to me and was asking questions, and it's so easy to help people, and I love doing it. And I have helped her build this business via text message. She's in London. We hardly ever speak to each other. This might also be a generational thing, but because she's Gen Z and I'm a millennial. But we can problem solve anything and communicate so effectively via voice notes and text message, and it's so amazing. And same for a lot of the other people. But not just that. Like, I feel like something that was always done, they were female dominated organizations I was in, like Bobby Brown Cosmetics was mostly women, and then everything that Bobby and I built together was mostly women. And so I think even more important than helping the external characters in my world were the internal characters. So every person that worked for us at the brand, like I always tried to make sure and get to know them personally. And one of the first questions I ask someone is, well, what are your goals? Even if I'm consulting on a job, like, well, what do you want to do ultimately? What are your goals? How do we get you there?
So okay, so I don't want you to lose that thought. So it's the internal people that you help support as well as the external.
Yes, exactly. And even recently, the young people these days, they're up against so many different things. I mean, their generation is wild, and they've been through the pandemic, and some of them started jobs not even in an office, and they didn't have all these human touch experiences that I personally think are invaluable and where I learned most of what I know. And so also sometimes without that, you don't have the confidence and just the, I don't know, ballsiness to go out and do something like one, and you got to be scrappy. And so one girl 2 weeks ago, she wanted to apply for this job and she didn't know anyone there. And it's a beauty brand. And I checked, I didn't know anyone there, but I had 50 something connections with the COO. So I said, oh, okay, no problem. I'm going to LinkedIn this guy, send him a message, say, I got this great kid that's looking to apply to your job. She did apply. Here's her name. Here's her resume. Like, move her to the top of the pile because she's great. I'm giving her my stamp of approval. And it meant so much to her. And it was so easy for me. That took me 3.5 minutes to do. And then it worked.
And it worked. Yeah, she got it to the head. Did she get the job?
She didn't get the job yet, but she's on her second or third interview, which just as good, almost.
Yeah, just as good. Right, exactly. And what you really underline is, it doesn't take that much to give, and it doesn't take that much to give back and to help and to always. Yes, of course, we want to take care of ourselves and take care of our family, but we can do it at the same time of helping other people, right? And it doesn't have to be some extraordinary gesture. It can just be like what you just did. Like, hey, I'm connected to this COO, and it's going to take me 2 minutes, 3 minutes to just shoot him a note.
That's it, honestly. And it's the littlest things. There's an organization here in Montclair that Bobby and I helped start and grow, and it's called Reaching Out Montclair. And the people who run it, a wonderful police officer and his wife, Maddie and Garth Guthrie, they're in town, and their whole goal is just helping people here in Montclair. And they need the help. And it's honestly, it's not, we're not donating buildings, we're not doing crazy things. It's like, oh, so and so called me, an 8-year-old needs a bike. Okay, no problem. I go to Walmart.com, I get the bike, we get it over to the kid. Like, sure. That is the easy stuff that I think sometimes people get caught up in wanting to do something so big, and you lose sight of, like, there are just really small day-to-day things that you can do in your own town that make such a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love for you to, share that link because, again, I'm in Glen Ridge here in Montclair.
Yeah.
That didn't prevent me or preclude me, as well as a lot of the people that I know here in town to help out with the organizations you're supporting locally. That's what, why I appreciate an individual or individuals like Zach Rosenberg and Rachel Herskovitz, because of what they want to do in terms of bridging the the local entrepreneurship community here in Montclair with the Montclair State University, which is a beautiful school, a beautiful campus. Like, Dan Reich and I were walking the campus and we're like, we didn't know this was here.
Same.
So going back to, working with Bobby Brown and, you started off as working with her as her chief of staff. When did that conversation happen or occur when she said, you know what, I want to start, now that the non-compete with Estee Lauder is expiring, I want to start this new cosmetics company. We're going to call it Jones Road Beauty, or were you involved in naming the company? But what was that conversation decision where she said, hey, I want you to be the co-founder and help me grow this business?
Well, we were 5, 6, 7 years into our relationship. We had a development over the course of the 10 years. And by 5, 6, 7 years, when she left Lauder and I was having my first baby, those two things coincided. So she left, and I had had the baby like 2 days before, and we had all these different things going on. And then it was like full stop. And, everyone hears the name Bobby Brown and they just assume oodles of money and people and like things to be done. And it was actually not that. And we had to start from scratch. Of course, after her being at the highest of the peaks, we had to start something from scratch. And that's what we did. And we did it with really just her and I, some local Montclair interns, whether they were from MSU or Montclair High. We had an amazing PR person, Gretchen Barra, that worked with us on some of the early projects, and other really just good assistants and other chiefs of staff and stuff like that. And I think like the confidence we had in what we were doing and knowing that eventually, and it's not like this was a day-to-day or even year-to-year thing, knowing that this non-compete was going to end and eventually we were going to do another beauty line. We just did things that were adjacent to beauty that still made sense for her and felt like they were kind of giving us a new education, right? On different things. Like we had never been real vendors to a retailer, and we did a partnership with Lord & Taylor and built these stores and had an amazing consultant, Allie Rose, that helped us with that. And then we did the beauty magazine at Yahoo, which that was an experience in digital everything for a year and a half. And I chased Masterclass for 18 months when they came out. I chased them because I was like, you need a beauty masterclass, and the only person that should be doing it is Bobby Brown. I'll stop. I stalked these guys. And meanwhile, Bobby was getting back into editorial makeup and doing a makeup show in India. And we had Evolution 18, which was a wellness brand. What a learning I had there. We had a strategic partnership with some other guys who we're still really close with here in Jersey that were vitamin and supplement manufacturers. We launched full chain at Walmart. We had never been in mass retail. That is such a behemoth, but really cool. And it was, again, a small team, a few of us just kind of, digging away at it every day. And while I wouldn't call that a success, I wouldn't call it a failure. I would just call it a learning curve and a stepping stone to, we were able to make all the mistakes that we needed to make on that brand and avoid making them for Jones Road, which was ultimately, we knew, going to be the crown jewel, because Bobby and makeup is just, it's like the same word, So that was really cool. And now I completely forgot where I was going with it.
It's okay. I'll come back to you. So, there are a couple of things that I just want to pull out of there. It's, people have this preconceived notion that it's Bobby Brown, that she has oodles of money, she's going to start a new brand, and it's automatically going to be a rocket ship. Mm-hmm. And then the other part of it is, again, you have a well-resourced, very well-recognized person like Bobby Brown, woman like Bobby Brown, who's a legend, who's an icon in the beauty space. There's this, again, preconceived notion that you have this huge team and robust resources, which was not the case. What are those attributes? Again, to the startup founder who's thinking about, again, launching, perhaps they're being held back by, I don't have the funding, I don't have the team. Like, what are those, again, if you, I like to say, if you're low on resources, be resourceful. So what are those attributes or those characteristics that you could have or need to have in order to break through?
Your relationships and how you treat people are everything, in my opinion, because yes, it was easier walking into a lab with Bobby and saying, can you help us? Yes, of course they were going to help us. But now, to other people and other founders that I mentor, particularly in the beauty space, right, or wellness space, I honestly just say kill with kindness, because that's what I always did myself. And that's how I sowed all my good oats with everyone around me. And I think frequently your first business or your first idea, it's like your warm up. It's really your warm up. Sometimes it's the hitter, but probably not. And then once you get your feet and you've made all those relationships and you've treated all those people with kindness and like goodwill, and tried not to burn bridges and just take the high road when problems or complicated situations came up, so that when you're at your next place, whatever it is, your reputation is intact, it's sterling, and you can feel so proud of how you handled everything. That's something that I always did, and that is how I mentor others as well, because people can get confused when you're nice. A lot of feedback I would get years ago was that I needed to be more like a bully, kind of, especially as a woman, more tough. And there were some other women that they would use as examples. Oh, you need to be like that and be just like a bulldog. And that never sat right with me, because that's not how I am. And I just think, okay, if that needs to come out, fine. Usually there is a scenario where that should come out. But like 90% of the time, that's not the way. And nobody really likes that. They want to work with good people. And so that ethos has worked out for me. And I try to teach that now to everyone else.
Right. Yeah. It's all about the relationships. It's all about being kind. And the other thing that I'd pull out from what you're saying too is be true to yourself. There's only one you, so if someone's saying, yes, the feedback is, I'm a big proponent of feedback. I ask for feedback from, people you work with, your equals, your superiors, whomever. Of course, you'll have a filter on whether you're like, yeah, I see, yeah, but I don't really agree. Like, you should be a bulldog, but that's not who I am. I can be assertive, but I can be assertive in the way that I deem fit, the way that's authentic to me, not what's, again, authentic based on the example you're presenting. I totally get that. And so you're at Jones Road Beauty, and you left Jones Road in.
So yes, we launched Jones Road in 2020 with a very small team. We were super tight. It was awesome and scary and cool. Lucky that it was a big success, and Bobby's incredible with product. So we were also launching with some really special products, I think. And that was great because there was an opening. There's an opening in the beauty world, in the like clean, safe, non-toxic place, with amazingly efficacious and just great feel good stuff. So anyway, super small team. We launched that about a year in. I started to feel like, Bobby and Steven, they owned the lion's share of the company, of course. And so their prerogative is their prerogative. And they wanted to start to turn it into more of a family business. And I totally get that. But that wasn't really what I wanted to do. And as a founder, like a couple times over now, and just confident in myself, I thought, it's been a great 10 years. I kind of wanted to pull a Seinfeld and just go out on top in terms of, my relationship and where we were with the brands. And that's what I did. So I was like, it's a song, thanks for the memories, and everything's wonderful, and I'm ready to spread my wings and fly on my own. So that was tricky. That's hard to do when you're comfortable and when your partners are also like your family. But we got through it. I think it was a tough first 6 months right after. And we also live down the street from each other. Just, it's cool. But
right.
Our dogs are Bobby's son, Duke, and my dogs are sisters. So we're really connected. And then, time heals all wounds. And
Sure.
Not even that, it was a wound. But
not a wound, right.
It was just like, we just need a little time. And now it's great. We're back. I'm so excited. Jones Road is doing better than ever. And it's a nice launch pad for me to start my new company and all the new things that I want to do. And why I wanted to be on this podcast is because everything I want to do has or will have some sort of better for you, better for the planet, like better in general aspect to it, because I'm sick and tired of just greedy bullshit, I think. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sorry if you can't swear on this podcast. No, you
can. It's my show. You can,
okay, great.
Do what you want.
I can swear on our show. Great. Mm-hmm. And so that's that's what we're going to do. And that's what fuels my fire now.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So let's talk about La Cosa Ventures.
Yeah. I We started in January officially, January 23, and my partner is Scarlett Lung. She's amazing. We met through mutual friends and mutual job, consultant job, and we totally fell in love, professionally and platonically. And I said this on the panel. I could just tell she was a wonderful person right away.
She's the
Smart. She's the one, smart with the experience and all the things that you would want. But inside, she's a wonderful human being. And we just really saw eye to eye. So we decided to launch the company, and I'm starting one brand myself in the mom space, which is called Spec Heart. That's going to launch this summer with a slew of products. Scarlett and I and another gal, Allie Hazlitt, we're launching a kids makeup line, which probably will launch in the next 12 or so months, which has some really cool and really great elements to it that I think are going to be a part of what, I don't know if anyone else says this is my new thing, that all the brands that we do from now on, I want to be role model brands for the next generations, and maybe not Gen Z, but Gen Alpha and beyond. Think of what Patagonia does, but that's tricky. So like this new generation of role model brands that at least try to do everything a little bit smarter, a little bit safer, and a little bit more sustainable. Like you got to baby step your way into it. And you obviously need to turn a profit to stay in business. So keeping all that in mind, I think more companies should be certified B Corps, but it's not easy to do that. So
not easy, no.
No, maybe there's a way for us to help with that. And two other things in the hopper. So we'll see. And like a new modern kind of LVMH, but when it was probably just L.
when it was just L, right? Baby steps, right? Yeah.
Yes, there was no Vuitton yet. It was just the Louis.
Just the Louis, exactly. So you're not just incubating; you're actually building the brands yourself. Well, you are also incubating.
Yeah, it's kind of both. I guess you would call it incubation, but I don't really know. Yeah.
Where the line, where it starts and stops, right? Gotcha. So what was the name of the brand that you're launching this summer?
Spec Heart.
Spec Heart. And it's geared towards the mom?
Yes, it's geared towards moms. We think that there's an opening there for the modern mom, really, who's not being talked to. A lot of products for moms are just ancillary products to either a baby line or a women's line or feminine hygiene products that are just in general for anyone. So something really speaking to this like maternity, postpartum, and then motherhood set. Okay. And then eventually we have some really great product roadmap ideas for the teen period care space as well, because that's another set of gals that is just starting to get spoken to as they are, and not like I'm 38 and you're 14 and we're talking to you and selling you the same products. And it doesn't really feel like it should be that way. So we have a lot of great ideas. There's two other gals that are the founders and with me, and it's going to be great. It's like Anna Speckhart is the original founder. She had the idea, and she's really great. She's like an NYC cool girl, but from Pittsfield, Illinois. So really rooted in Midwest practicality, which is kind of like the ultimate person. So
right. The best.
So we're going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So is Spec Heart going to be available in stores, or just going to be direct to consumer when you launch?
It's going to be direct to consumer for launch. Mm-hmm. And then, we're talking to people, so we'll see. But I also realize it's the harder path, but I love mass retail, like Target, Walmart,
Sure.
the grocery store, Costco, things like that. Food, drug, and mass, what they call it, FDM. So I'm trying to play in that ballpark. It's like making a pop music song. People dismiss it. I'm like, it's hard to make a song that 400 million people listen to 20 times a day. That's unique, right? And so it's kind of like mass retail. People are like, oh, it's in Target. It's like, oh, okay, but 2,000 people a day buy it all over the country, so they sell hundreds of thousands of units, which is really, I think, impactful. And again, if you're making better for you brands, and then you can have that scale and impact, it's like jumping a few steps up the ladder.
Right, exactly. And then you're creating that flywheel of people wanting to come back, not just because the product works, but also because of what you're doing beyond that.
Yeah, and I think part of accessibility and inclusion that gets lost is there's two factors. There's price point and there's also point of distribution. So, I would like to be able to hit both of those things and make them really inclusive, because not everyone can shop at Sephora and almost everyone can shop at Walmart.
Exactly. So taking more of a mastige
Yes,
approach.
love me some mastige.
Exactly. So one book that I suggest checking out, A.G. Lafley, I'll send this to you as a follow-up.
Okay.
The former
Thank
CEO of Procter & Gamble, who wrote a whole chapter in his book about oil of Olay, how it started off as a prestige product and then they positioned it for mastige, because to your point, certain consumers can't afford Sephora price point, but Walmart is a little bit more palatable. So how can they position and market the brand differently based on the channel? Tara, we're heading up on time. The way I like to, again, end these conversations, as much as I love starting these conversations, is two things. Any parting wisdom based on your perspective, based on your experience? And secondly, how can this community help you?
Well, okay, first one, I would say parting wisdom, so tough because I grew up in a really interesting environment, and the wisdom I received growing up it's part of why the new company is called La Cosa. It's like a little nod to the mafia. Not that we were in the mafia, but Italian Americans in general. There's a famous line from Scarface, actually, that you don't have to take it literally, but you should listen up. And I think you can kind of translate it to whatever world you're in. And he was like, there's 3 rules. First rule, don't get high on your own supply. Obvious. Second rule, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. So put your money where your mouth is. I think that's how I would translate that. And 3, don't get high on your own supply, which, again, I think you can translate that to you got to stay humble, and you have to stay humble, and you can't listen to the haters. You can't listen to the hype. You just need to do you. You said this earlier, and be authentic to yourself. And that is just going to take you miles and miles and miles further than getting an ego or thinking you're too good. And, I don't know. I can always get someone a cup of coffee.
Right.
It's nothing. Doesn't mean anything. So other than like an act of kindness.
It's an act of kindness, right? There's no like presupposition that, I'm better than you or I'm higher up the pole or the ladder than you. We're both people. We both breathe the same air.
Exactly.
Same aspirations or similar aspirations.
Yeah. It's like writing a thank you note. That's my other words of wisdom, which my grandmother taught me. Just write a thank you note, a thank you text. I don't care what it is, but tell someone that you thank them for something nice they did for you. People don't forget that.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll add to that. I think those are all great pieces of wisdom. And I'd be remiss not to mention it because he was on your panel, Craig Dubitsky, who is the third guest on the show, who, not just to me, but also to the people who are listening, do the work beforehand, which I think is so key. And like what you were saying about some of the mentees that you have in your orbit, they're doing the work beforehand to get where they want to go based on the advice that you're providing them and the insight.
Yeah. And Craig is, you guys can find him online. He's one of my mentors as well. And I just, I think he's the bomb.
He is the bomb.
The community, your second question, I think stay in touch. Let me know if you need help or you're in the Montclair. What county do we live in?
Essex
County, you said?
Essex County.
I don't even know. I call myself New Jersey dumb. But so if you're in the Essex County area and you want to get involved or do anything, please reach out. And what's Zach's? We should give a shout out to Zach. Has a cool Montclair media meetup.
Yeah, Montclair Media. Yeah, Montclair Media.
Yeah. This is a happening spot. Anyone should, take a trip here and we'll show you around.
Yeah, absolutely. We're I think, at least the people that I have come in contact with, both in Glenridge and Montclair, are all givers. How can we help? How can we give? How can we, again, because collectively, we're greater than the sum of our parts. So, if we're able to, again, help, what you just said, get a cup of coffee, write a LinkedIn note that's going to take me 2 minutes out of my day to write, that's going to have a huge impact on someone else. I think that goes a long way. But Tara, just getting really specific, you're launching new brands. Are there investors? Are there advisors? Are there customers that you'd love to, of course, buy their product, but just to help you, again, I know you have your plans for launch, but any other way that we can complement that launch?
I think that if there are moms out there, specifically since Spec Hard is first up on the docket, we're going to be launching a community that's called Moms Worldwide, like hashtag Moms Worldwide. And we couldn't believe it was available to be trademarked. We were like,
that's amazing.
Wow, that's amazing. So if you are a mom and you have an opinion on, there's free to mom, free to baby. If you have an opinion on anything, just hit me up, let me know. And I would say that's it. Oh, if anyone works for B Corp, please reach out to me because I want to get more involved in that. Oh, and this is really specific, but you asked for specific.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I was just made aware, my neighbor handed me an article that Columbia University
in New York City
in New York City has a children's education center for research. I'm forgetting exactly what it's called, but if you know it, then that will be enough. And they just did a bunch of studies on toxic kids' makeup products, which is exactly what I'm, trying to create something better for. Uh-huh. So I cold called and cold emailed this center. Haven't heard back. Probably going to stalk them like I do to most people. But if anyone in the community has a way in or is part of the Columbia alumni and thinks they can help, I would really appreciate it.
Okay. That's very clear. That's very specific. And if there's an osmosis capability, through the screen of at least tapping into your persistence, Tara, I would take it. Being tenacious, and again, once you have an idea of what you want or who you want to talk to, and I believe you, very little is going to get in your way of getting there. So I think if there's one big macro point, coming out of this conversation, again, if you have an idea, don't have again, Craig Dubitsky-ism. There's no FOMO. There's only fear of not trying. So, consistently try. And again, there are people out there that are willing to help. You just need to ask.
I did not shout out my husband, who is my partner in crime. And I should, because he totally deserves it. And I think that whomever you choose as your partner in life and in work, honestly, it makes all the difference. So, but I did stalk that guy too, Eric. You'll be happy to know. That's right. Followed him around the world. Wasn't easy to get him. Had to really, really keep knocking on the door. Finally locked him down.
Finally. And look at the life that you built.
Look at this. Totally trapped. 3 kids.
Totally trapped.
I can't get away. I can't leave. I'm here. Not leaving New Jersey.
No, not leaving New Jersey. Excellent. Well, Tara, it's been a pleasure. I really do appreciate your time. The community, I'll speak on their behalf, also appreciates your time, your wisdom, your insight. Best of luck with the launch of Spec Hard. As it gets closer, again, in the show notes, I'll include a link. I imagine there's going to be a website to learn more. So again, reach out to me. I'll put links to Tara's LinkedIn Instagram, Twitter, whatever, again, social media. Just again, if you have any questions or again, anything that she says is, piques your interest, please reach out. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Eric.
Appreciate it.